Yesterday, the Pentagon onboarded 8 AI companies onto its classified networks. The one it explicitly banned just won a federal court ruling that the ban was, quote, unlawful retaliation. Both things are true. This is AI News Now from ANN Live for Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. The 8 companies in, the 1 company out, the contractual phrase that did it, the federal judge who called it unlawful retaliation, and the most uncomfortable second-order effect in AI procurement this year. Story 1. May 1st, the Pentagon expanded its classified AI work to 8 tech companies: SpaceX, OpenAI, Google, Nvidia, Reflection, Microsoft, AWS, and Oracle added hours later. 8. Every major frontier lab in the United States. Every hyperscaler, 1 open source startup, 1 classified deal. Defensive Scoop got the full list first. Impact Level 6 and Impact Level 7 environments, those are not normal cloud workloads. Those are the most restrictive classified networks the Department of Defense runs. Top secret. Critical national security. Pentagon CTO Emil Michael said the quiet part directly. Quote, "We went out and made sure we had multiple different providers, both open source, which is a new effort, and the proprietary model companies," end quote. The Pentagon is buying diversity on purpose. Here's the part nobody is connecting. Reflection AI, an Nvidia-backed open source startup, on the same classified network deal as Microsoft, AWS, and OpenAI. That is the canary. The moat between the frontier labs and the next tier just shrank overnight. And the framing the Pentagon used in its own press release. Quote, "These agreements accelerate the transformation toward establishing the United States military as an AI-first fighting force," end quote. That is the vision the 8 signed onto. Now the language each of those 8 companies signed. The Pentagon required, quote, "all lawful purposes," end quote. By the Pentagon's own interpretation, that phrase includes autonomous weapons targeting decisions and domestic mass surveillance. 8 companies said yes. Story 2. Anthropic, the second largest frontier AI lab in America by revenue, the only major lab whose CEO has publicly defined what they will not do, and the only major lab not on May 1st's list. Anthropic's 2 firm conditions. Read them carefully. 1. No autonomous weapons targeting decisions. 2. No domestic mass surveillance. That is the entire substance of the dispute. 2 sentences. They cost the company a Pentagon revenue stream. Dario Amodei's statement, posted on Anthropic's site 1 day before the Pentagon announcement, quote, "Frontier AI systems are simply not reliable enough to power fully autonomous weapons, and the company will not knowingly provide a product that puts America's warfighters and civilians at risk," end quote. And the part that gets buried. Anthropic offered to work directly with the Department of War on R&D to improve the reliability of these systems, to make autonomous targeting actually safe before deploying it. The Pentagon declined. Dodd's response, designate Anthropic a, quote, "supply chain risk," end quote. Read that label. Supply chain risk is the language the Pentagon uses for foreign adversaries. China, Russia, now applied to a San Francisco company. Fortune reported the personal language. Pentagon officials called Amodei, quote, "a liar with a god complex," end quote. That is how the dispute escalated in February, from a procurement disagreement into a public attack on the CEO. March 9th. Anthropic sued the Trump administration in 2 separate federal courts, San Francisco, Washington, the 500th C. The legal claims: First Amendment retaliation, Administrative Procedure Act violations. March 26th, U.S. District Judge Rita Lynn granted Anthropic a preliminary injunction, her words on the record. The supply chain risk designation was likely pretextual. The government's real motive was unlawful retaliation, end quote. A federal judge said it. Story 3, pull back for a second. What just happened in plain English? Anthropic took a court ruling that the Pentagon's blacklist was unlawful. They still got 0 contracts, and every other major frontier lab signed a deal that includes the language Anthropic refused. And the timeline of the door reopening, April 17th. President Trump met Amodei at the White House. Trump told CNBC afterward that a deal was, quote, "possible," end quote. He said Anthropic was, quote, "very smart. They can be of great use." April 29th. Axios reported the Trump administration was drafting an executive order to reopen federal procurement to Anthropic. 2 days before the Pentagon's announcement the door was supposedly opening, May 1st. The Pentagon announced 8 contracts. Anthropic was not on the list. Whatever the executive order was supposed to be, it did not arrive in time, or it was never going to. Here's the part most coverage is missing. For an enterprise buyer in a regulated industry, a European bank, a US hospital, a GDPR-covered insurer, Anthropic just produced the most credible vendor trust signal in the history of AI procurement. They did not write a blog post about safety. They paid for it in revenue. The receipt is in federal court filings. And the inverse, every other major lab just put, quote, all lawful purposes, end quote, into their federal procurement record. That phrase, by the Pentagon's own interpretation, includes autonomous weapons, includes mass surveillance. That language is now in the supply chain of every OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, AWS, and Oracle enterprise customer. Story 4. Connect this to yesterday's news. Combined 2026 AI capex from the 4 hyperscalers is now over $700 billion. That much compute needs customers. The Pentagon is the customer of last resort. Whoever sells to DoD first wins the long contract. And the second line from the Pentagon statement that gets less attention, quote, the department will continue to build an architecture that prevents AI vendor lock-in, end quote. Translation, none of the 8 has leverage. Any of them can be replaced, including the giants. Reflection AI, being the 8th name, is the part of this story most coverage is skipping. An Nvidia-backed open source startup, same classified deal as Microsoft. The Pentagon just demonstrated that frontier scale is not required to win the contract. The contract requires willingness. Anthropic had the scale and refused. Reflection had the willingness and got the deal. And the take that I will defend. If your AI vendor's federal procurement language allows autonomous weapons targeting and domestic mass surveillance, your AI vendor's safety claims are marketing. The procurement record is the only place the company has actually made a binding commitment. Read what they signed. Pull back. The headline today is not 8 versus 1. It is the first time in this cycle a frontier lab has been forced to put a number on a principle. Anthropic put one on it, lost revenue, federal court ruling on the record. The principle now exists as a tradable enterprise asset. 6-month forecast. 1. The Trump executive order to reopen federal procurement to Anthropic actually arrives, and Anthropic accepts only on its original 2 red lines. 2. At least one major Anthropic enterprise customer publicly cites the Pentagon exclusion as a procurement reason. 3. A second major frontier lab tries to publicly redefine its red lines now that Anthropic owns the territory. 12-month forecast. The phrase all lawful purposes becomes a contractual question EU regulators ask every American AI vendor. A federal judge sets new precedent on whether procurement retaliation against an AI lab violates the First Amendment. And Reflection AI either gets acquired or becomes the 3rd name on every classified AI shortlist. Here's the unpopular bet. Principal pricing is now a real market in AI. Up until yesterday, every safety claim from every lab was free. Now there is a price. Anthropic posted it. Other labs will be asked what their number is. The ones who have not paid one will be heard differently in enterprise sales calls. If you are shipping with AI, 3 takeaways. 1. Read the federal procurement language of every model you depend on. 2. If you sell into regulated industries, the Pentagon exclusion is now a Claude differentiator you can quote in writing. 3. If you are an open source shop, Reflection AI just became the most interesting startup nobody on your team has researched yet. And the line to take with you, Anthropic did not lose this fight. Anthropic priced principle. Every other lab still owes the answer. The question every commercial customer has wanted answered for 2 years just got an answer from one company. 8 companies still owe theirs. That is the May 2nd briefing. 8 companies in, 1 company out, 1 federal judge already on record, and 1 principal that just got a price tag in lost revenue. We will track every name that crosses or backs off the line. For ANN Live, this is AI News Now, proof, not press releases.